Thanks, Phil. Yeah, cool.
It's more so whether everybody can hear that on screen.
Cool. It is 5:31. We will kick into things. Welcome everybody who's joining us in the gallery, online, and watching the recording at a later date, which I assume there'll be a few of. Committee members, thank you for joining us. Everybody has been in this facility more than enough time, so we'll pass through housekeeping. We will move through to apologies. Right. Okay.
What you said, like.
We'll keep going. Moving into apologies. The only one I take is from Kelly Malloy. Just noting we have Paul Medgwick online, Owen Kilgore online, Ian Hartshort and Kim Smith joined online. I don't think there's anyone from NZTA. If there is, could they identify themselves, please? Cool. We will hold with no one there from NZTA currently. Looking for a mover and a seconder to accept Kelly's apology. Caitlin and a seconder. Cool. Colin, all in favour? Carried. Declarations of interest. There's been none tabled, but is there any to be tabled tonight from anybody around the table? I will take the silence as a no. Just moving to the minutes to be approved, the extraordinary meeting of this committee. The minutes of the last one will be brought to the next scheduled meeting of the group. That pulls us through to section 4, the report. We have one, 4.1, investment fund contribution to the Franz Josef Flood Protection Scheme upgrade. I'll throw to Tom Hopkins to present to us on this.
A couple of apologies. Apologies for that. Doesn't normally happen. The second one is memo that committee members got from me on Friday afternoon outlining the proposed scope of work for the upgrade to Hamilton. I had hoped to have about the paper that you received earlier, which was arrival and kind of build through that, but you've got it Friday afternoon.
Sorry, Tom, I can't hear you very well on this call.
Is, just a bit of background for the record, but of course 30 seconds of events here, and then I'll get into what we'll start proposing to the committee for consideration. Thanks for that. Committee members will,
sorry, Tom, just hold for a moment. Owen and Colin, can you hear better now that we've moved the microphone? We're just getting some feedback from them online that it's not great.
I can't hear at all.
Is that any better if Tom talks again now?
you hear me okay now, right?
No.
Only just. You can hear Ash a lot better.
Turn that header off just in case.
I think Tom's got his microphone on his computer as well as the meeting microphone.
Yep.
Logan, while you're over there, could you please stand? Big socket.
Again, please, Tom. That's a no from Scott.
Still
so you can hear the rest of us okay, just not Tom?
correct.
Do you want to come? It's possibly coming through the computer. Do you want to come and sit up here, Colin? Do you mind? We'll just bring Tom around to sit in front of the computer in case it's the computer that's picking it up for you.
Okay, this time,
Yeah, all the morning.
bingo, so this is laptop and second up. Righto, so the original scope for this part of Friends Stage 2 was a 400-metre extension of the Havels Wall with a budget of 2.8 million. And the contract that we signed with Kānoa in December 2024, that was what was included in the contract. In July 2025, the Joint Committee, due to concerns about affordability for the rating district, resolved to not proceed with that extension. But based on advice from our geomorphologists and our engineers, staff have remained concerned enough about threat to the Havels stock bank and property and infrastructure and behind that we've, due to the rapidly progressing avulsion, that we've continued to advocate for an upgrade, most recently in the form of a shorter, cheaper 200-metre extension. The working group that we are liaising with, first and foremost on your behalf, has been quite clear that the rating impact of even a shorter extension isn't acceptable. So in an attempt to resolve that situation, about a month ago now, Colin, I think, Council resolved to offer a $1 million contribution from Regional Council's Investment Fund to cover the cost of the local share associated with the upgrade. So if that entire 1 million was added to the project budget, that would take the total funds available to 2.5 million, 1.5 million from Kānoa and 1 million from the investment fund. Now, what you'll find as I talk through this is that we're not proposing that we spend all of that on the Havels Wall upgrade. Okay. So following our annual mean bed level analysis of the Waiho in March 2026, highlighting as parts of an anticipated progression of the avulsion and noting community concerns about affordability, we now recommend the following. So don't progress with the extension, and the horses probably hold on that one anyway. Do prioritise further underpinning the existing tow rock along the length of Havels Wall and construct a groin head on the end of the existing stop bank. The groin head will provide some limited protection to Westland District Council's bund below the treatment ponds and provide additional protection to the downriver end of Havels Wall. Would require about 1,200 tonnes worth of rock to enable that one. At present, due to downcutting of the avulsion channel, there's approximately 2 metres depth of tow rock remaining along the length of Havels, and we expect that riverbed along Havels Wall to continue to degrade at least another 2 metres, maybe more. So the proposal is to excavate, as was done last time round in 2024, a roughly 4 metre deep trench and add a further 1.5 to 3 metres of tow rock to maintain a buffer below the existing tow rock, below the expected bed level depth over the short to medium term. We also propose that this is done proactively over the winter months while flows are low and ahead of the spring wet season, so it's easier and safer to implement. Also associated with that, we propose to apply for consent to divert the river to 1, implement the project, and then 2, for future maintenance should we need it in the future, over the medium term. And then we'll also continue to monitor the rates of degradation along link bank as the avulsion channel progresses further upriver, to the point where it starts to stabilise and doesn't want to down cut anymore. So the total project cost for all of that is estimated to be 1.4 million, including costs incurred to date on progressing the extension proposal. At the agreed funding assistance rate, that equates to 840,000 from Kānai and 560,000 from the investment fund contribution. That would leave 440,000 remaining from the investment fund contribution for the rating district to decide what it wants to do with, be it supplement existing stockpiles, add to its reserves for future maintenance, or some other use approved by council. Okay. So that's me, and open the floor up for any questions.
Yeah, I've got a question, Tom. You said the tow rock of 1.5 to 3 metres.
Yeah, so it's not a perfect line underneath the existing tow rock.
Yeah.
So it'll be
Just an area.
yeah.
I just saw photos that Colin took this evening down there, and that's a difference to what it was 4 weeks ago, where it was cutting in beside.
Correct.
Right. So looking at the depth that's cut down now, if that was to move closer to the wall, I'm not talking the base, I'm talking the wall in general, that's going to potentially undermine any amount of rock that's there, because that's down quite a depth to what we originally discussed. So the river from 6 weeks ago to now has changed significantly again.
Mm-hmm.
We can't project what it's going to be doing after the next lot of rain we have.
Mm-hmm.
So putting that tow rock in and armouring up that piece of wall, is it going to do what we aspire it to do? If what Colin was saying to me before, that low curve that sits at the base of the wall, if that was to come in and go to the base of the wall, is it not going to undermine any armouring at that point?
So at the moment, head level off the bottom end of the wall is close to, if not below, existing tow rock level.
Yeah.
And part of the reason for that is that that 4 metre target depth that was installed in 2024 tapered back up to the end of the wall, because we expect it to be extending further.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's very little, if any, tow rock at the end of the wall right now. So that's where the priority is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We are constrained a bit by how deep we can excavate for safety reasons. Okay, so we can get down 4 metres below existing deep level happily enough to repeat the exercise that we carried out 2 years ago. And then in theory, that'll extend out the time by an unknown length of time. Before that avulsion reaches the bottom of the additional tow that we're proposing to install.
So you're talking about going even deeper though, to protect that, than what was first intimated with that, what did you say, Graham?
1.5 to 3 metres.
Yeah, so we have to go down to come back up. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. So because that's changed from when we talked about this, what you're presenting tonight, is that not going to change what's going to have to be done for depth?
Ben, I might be missing something here, but are you able to jump in and try and clarify a little?
Yep. So the 1.5 to 3 metres is how much we need to in.
Put a diagram out, Tom.
Sorry, Ben.
A cross section on the whiteboard.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm just saying if this river's going to deep to what we would rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah.
What's updated with the ponds?
Eh?
What's updated with the ponds?
Sites are in discussion options. I think we have 3, as is time. But just one thing that we've all got to think about is that if the ponds went tomorrow or in 6 months' time, 12 months' time, that's not the end of the have wall requirements. It is still protecting the substation, the school, and all that infrastructure that sits there. When you think about when it went through scenic, it went down through the back of the school, top 10, etc. And that was in that flood. So the Havel wall will still need to be maintained going forward to protect that
But the
infrastructure.
main part where the river's hitting that we're talking about
At the
now
moment, yeah,
is the ponds.
yeah, it is.
So it's not going to affect top 10.
Not
It's
at
not
this
going to go
stage,
back, yeah, but
but we know it
that's,
has before.
yeah, but
And we've
that's
seen the movement of the
2,800
river.
metres up the
Yeah.
socket.
And the same to say, it's
So-
not going to go back there.
No, it's nothing we're saying about, but we're going around in circles about the ponds all the time. And it comes back on us with media saying to us, we have to close down business, the Franz Josef businesses one, they get knocked all the time saying, you might have to close the town down. Well, it's not going to happen as well, and Christ, you've seen this shit everywhere. But the problem is that we just seem to be hearing bugger all or nothing, and it's just going around in circles. We want an answer to know what's actually happening with the ponds. Is there an update that we're going to have new ponds in 2 years' time? Is it 10 years' time?
Right, so part of that work, as I've said before, is that Franz as a community can't afford to pay for new wastewater system.
Yeah.
Okay, so in North and Western as a district, if we were to rate that across the whole district, because we'd also have to go out submit and kind of consult with the entire district to do that.
Yeah.
So that means going to Wellington for assistance with that.
But
Through the IBL.
This was the discussion that was had 2 years ago in this room.
Yeah, and we've
That
had
was
to,
going to happen.
yeah, and we've had to wait for the IBL to come out, the International Visitor Levy. And with that, we also know that hasn't come forward to what they were proposing when they first announced it. There was an initial small bite, which was really a token gesture for some places around the country. And from what they proposed to be accessible and available for projects such as this, it's not been there because the government's needed that fund themselves. So that's put us into a position too, because we had indicated that would be part of the process.
Yeah.
The door's not closed, it's the fact that the communication around that has closed, so we still have to carry on, and that's part of going to Wellington for an overall grants proposal, because we can't wait for the IBL, we've got to have the government's intervention now on this matter.
And like Kellen has been working hard on it, I can guarantee that.
Yeah.
We are trying, yeah.
But you understand we're working
Yeah.
as long as it can.
And what she's trying to do is save you guys by getting the money from government, you know?
Yeah.
But it takes time. Yeah.
Question, well, I asked, well, respond to, I'll pass back on to where we are. Tom looks like he's almost finished his drawing. And Ben, we can unmute so you can answer the question Tom asked you previously, if you like. Oh, and I've seen your hand up, we'll come back to you in just a minute, bud.
I hope that was explained to them, sorry.
Thanks. Hopefully Tom's drawn something.
We just need to unmute, yes, so we can talk about it around.
Otherwise. This is not a style, and I'm not a school teacher for drafting.
Stepping on them, you can't cut back and under.
Can you see?
Three, all the way along.
Yeah.
We can just see it. I'm not sure if you can hear me or not.
Whilst Ben's talking, everyone in the room needs to be quiet, otherwise we can hear ourselves like we heard that idiot with his opening remarks before.
So- It looks like Tom's drawn the cross section. I can keep it short. The 1.5 to 3 meters is how much rock we need to add depth wise to the existing. The alignment of the existing rock doesn't line up perfectly with the depth we're targeting. So that's why there's a range there. Ultimately, what we're trying to achieve is 2 meters below current best guess of what the bed is going to cut down to over the next few years.
And Ben, can you explain that over time, there's sort of an equalisation, isn't there, across the whole riverbed? Like it'll degrade to a point that it equalises, is that right?
To a degree, but there's variables. If you draw a line straight across the river, it's acting as a fan, so it can be higher in the middle of that fan than it is on the edges. And we also don't know the alignment that the avulsion is going to take over time. If it cuts further to the right, i.e. upstream in the Tartary, then it shortens the avulsion length and therefore it would steepen up. So in theory, yes, but where that bottom line is really difficult to make a call on.
Thanks. So effectively what I'm saying here is that we are constrained from a safety point of view by going, too far down here. So we can excavate out a certain depth to get this in here and buy us a bit more time. And then we just continue to monitor it as it comes down, and then hopefully it starts to stabilise depending on where the avulsion wants to wind up. Right.
Related to this, yeah, I'll throw it on, but you can. Oh, sorry,
Can't relate to this.
okay.
We're talking medium term. We don't know what medium term is. What's the next step? Is that to do this again? Because the ponds are not going to move overnight. Helen's working, sorry, the district council working really hard to do that, but this is not a 5-minute job, and this could change a lot. So what's medium term? Could be 1 year, 2 years, possibly worst case. What's the next step after this? Is that to do that same thing again?
Feasibly, if it continues to down cut to the point where we need to put another, 1 to 3 metres in here underneath there, but we don't. That's what Ben's trying to say, is it's quite hard to predict how far that bed level is going to go down. He's, in conjunction with his colleague Rose, worked as hard as he can to try and estimate where that might wind up. Now, in that memo, what he's suggesting is that it might get down to this point, and in which case there'll be some maintenance work to do to keep in front of it, because I agree it's not a long-term solution. It's about buying time. Okay, so I guess what Ben's saying is, short term sort of 1 to 2 years, medium term sort of getting out beyond that. All right.
Just so I understand, Greg, you wouldn't think we need to do a step down, would put rock in and maintenance it from the top. Next time, it wouldn't have to be a whole $1.8 million spend again.
So again, Ben can talk to this better than I can, but that's given the way this is built, which is all tight and interlocked, it's quite difficult to achieve. And you're far better off coming in from underneath, as we did the last time and we're proposing to do this time. Ben, did you want to add to that at all?
No, it's a good explanation, Tom. I think what we're trying to do is strike a balance between putting rock into the toe down to a predicted scour depth, but not going overboard with that. So originally the design depth of toe rock for the North Bank was 4 meters deep. What we've put forward is already compromised on that. One, it's difficult to construct to that depth. 2, the life on this doesn't need to achieve that. So yeah, I think we'll end up somewhere in that one. It could get down to 1 meter embedded over the short term, and then with monitoring, a little bit of maintenance to repair during high flows, scour depth. In particular events, you might see some movement of rocks, but that can be tidied up with maintenance rather than significant additional rock to the toe.
But you said the life doesn't need to achieve the life.
Yes, sorry, that's
What do you mean by that? Sorry.
Well, I guess what we're trying to balance here is how much can physically be put in at depth, and what we think the river's going to do over the medium term. So it once it gets down to that bottom depth, then we'd expect some aggradation to start to occur again.
I'll just pause us here. I wanted to his hand up for a while. Have you got something to say, man?
Sorry, were you asking me?
Yeah, your hand was up before, or your digital hand was up.
Yeah, hey, thanks. And I think you've largely traversed a lot of what I was going to ask, which is, my understanding is this work is essentially an interim solution, primarily to protect the sewage ponds to buy time for them to be moved, but it sounds like secondarily the Havel wall protects the substation and some other assets. So I'm really wanting to understand what that interim piece looks like and for how long. So we've heard about the sewage ponds now, but what does the long-term piece look like? Are we always going to need the Havel wall? Where's the planning? Like, is the substation really at threat? Where's the master planning at if these other things are actually part of the puzzle that ties it all together, so we can understand the overall viability of the investment and how much time we are actually trying to buy here?
Good question. I was thinking.
I think everyone said move down to the south side.
As somebody like to respond, or are we going to take that and come back to Owen and the wider group with some?
So from a regional council perspective, what we're trying to do here, this is our responsibility, right? Is trying to buy as much time as we possibly can to allow Western District Council to do their job on the land use planning, the longer term future for Friends. Okay.
And do we have a time frame on how much time we need to buy? But where is District Council at with that land use planning?
That's not something I can answer. I have to hand over to the Western District Council.
Where are we at with the planning? The planning that we're doing on is not what you referred to then as far as the future vision into life after the ponds have gone, which is really what you were touching on before, isn't it? And that's something that collectively we haven't had a conversation, regional and Western, about that as far as, what those ponds have gone. What does that mean for that wall and the impact on that area of town? And that is something that we do need to be looking at, because the Havel wall just can't be deconstructed. We've got to look at, what point it does play its part, and can it be changed? Can it be modified to be more directly proportioned against those assets that sit in that area? There's a lot more work to this. And that's actually something that I hadn't thought about even with the Future Friends paper that I put together to take to Wellington. It's been about the south side, it's been about the ponds, it's been about the cost to the ratepayers and the burden that's there that's not it's not sustainable going forward. But that part of work has not been something that either of us have actually looked at. And it's really only just come to the fore when we started talking about this last Friday, Colin, wasn't it, when I brought up the fact that that wall doesn't just protect the ponds, it actually protects a lot of infrastructure that sits behind it. And what does that mean in the future going forward? Because it doesn't mean that that's the end of the Havel wall and what needs to be done with it. We've got to look at that. So, sadly, it's still some more work that's got to be done and smartly. And we will need all the river engineers involved with that as far as looking at the shape of that wall. The cost of maintenance, whether we can reutilise any of the materials that are in there if that wall gets changed, but that's a hell of a cost. And again, this is something that I need to get very quickly included in the papers to take to Wellington, because I've got to make sure when do present those papers that we haven't missed anything out. And this is something that potentially could have been missed out. And that's something I don't want to have as a risk. Anything we miss is a point against us for support.
Anything further on that, Owen?
So I guess just to surmise, every possible scenario, the Havel wall needs to basically remain and be functional over a multiple year time frame. That'd be fair.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the cost of that?
I think the question tonight, Owen, is that we need to look at what we need to do now to secure the situation now within the funding we've got.
You're getting nods.
Right, thank you.
Perhaps I can help out here, or try and help out here.
We'll come to you in a poll.
As being said, we do expect the emulsion to continue to degrade for a while yet. It's hard for us to predict exactly when it's going to want to stop doing that. But when it does stop doing that, the overall aggradation trend will kick back up and the bed level will start to come up. So what Ben's trying to say is we're trying to strike a balance between constructability and not spending more money than we need to right now versus trying to estimate how far down this thing's going to get before it wants to come back up again. All right? And that's where that's how I've got my head around it for the moment, if that's any help to you.
Appreciate the time. We'll go to Paul Medlock online.
Oh, thanks. Just further to what Owen was saying, Matua Shane Jones was crystal clear. He said, don't come to Wellington and ask for money until you've got a master plan. So the question about the master plan is a fair question, and it really hasn't been answered.
I'm not sure quite what you're wanting to hear, Paul, as far as the master plan goes, but I'm well aware of what Matua said, and he's already tabled the original papers they gave to him last year in Parliament. So Parliament are expecting the papers to come back to Wellington, and the hardest thing we've got at the moment is this story is forever changing. Another 6 weeks it will have changed again. And that's the biggest complexity we've got with this. It's all well and good for me to go to Wellington and say, look, future friends, this is what we're trying to resolve. But at the moment, we've got a river that's giving us the biggest poke in the eye we could ever ask for. And whatever we put forward to Wellington, it's got to be sustainable for the future. At the moment, there's nothing there that's sustainable for anybody. So he's acutely aware of that because I spoke to him the last time he was on the coast about this. And I think you were there for that, and Winston was also there. And they're expecting the paper in Wellington, and we're just making sure at the moment we've got the right ministers at the table and that everybody is available. It is an ever-changing war as far as the river goes, but what is solid is the future of Franz Josef and how we demonstrate that to Wellington. I know he said that don't come asking for money, and I've always said to him on that, we're not after a handout, we're after a hand up. The leverage we've got on this is the fact that the current structure is not sustainable for this community. We've also drawn on all the financial GDP input that we can get our hands on to take to Wellington to support the argument. And it will mean that there will be an expectation for Wellington to come to the fore financially to make this work. There's no other option. And Matua is very, very aware of that. And so is Minister Peters with that. So from when he made that comment, I think he wasn't just referring to Franz Josef, he was talking about a few other irons that have been in the fire. But as far as this goes, they know that there is no other option. Part of that paper to Wellington will also be the fact that the government is faced with these sort of problems all around the country now with different flooding situations that have been. I wanted to get in first and say, well, let's use Franz as the structure for how you manage these other areas around the country going forward. So let's get in quickly and sort of say, well, look, here's Franz Josef as an example. It's the most historic one that you've got. These are solutions. Government is going to have to come to the fore with this, but we can write a paper up that will allow them to manage the other areas around the country that have got similar problems. Nobody's got a problem like Franz Josef as far as the Wairau River. The others are all river related to flooding up into townships, but this one takes the slice as far as its long-term gravity of implications. The hardest thing that's been with this is that it has been a continually moving situation. So, you know, it's well and good to get papers written and then the river changes. And the update from the regional council has changed. The complexities changed because at one of the other meetings we had a couple of months ago, we know for a fact that there's elements on the south side, Tom, is that right? That potentially the tag team said, you know, there's risk in other areas coming up to beat us as well. So it's not just where we're facing now. I think they mentioned the south side on the NZTA wall, was it? And there's other areas further up on the south side, north side, that can be complexities going forward should the river change again.
Yeah, where they were coming from there is with the river, or 99% of the river heading off down through the Evolvin and through Tartary Gorge. That means that the lower Waiho fans, so that are adjacent to the rubbish dump banks and Milton and others, is perched and out of the firing line for the moment. So as far as the south side is concerned, the focus is squarely on the NZTA stockings, and nothing's changed there in terms of the geomorphology, the dynamic, with the bed continuing to upgrade in that area. That's what the upgrade that NZTA are about to apply for consent to do is about. So that's where they were coming from.
Paul, I'm not sure whether I've answered your question or your challenge, but yeah. What do you think? Sure.
Yeah. Anything else from the board on this, or we've got 3 recommendations in front of us?
3 kind of points, Tom. Question points. The link bank toe depth is the same as the Haverwall toe depth?
Yeah, roughly. Noting that area of riverbed has graded a bit, so it's actually deeper than the Haverwall's wall, if you get my drift. So same target depth at the time it was constructed, but the riverbeds are graded, so we've got a little bit more grace in there, and so we've got to keep an eye on it as the Evolvin progresses upward, but our attention is with Haverwall's wall for the moment.
That was a comment. Historically, NZTA have helped us with the north side banks when they've raised their banks. Has been a condition of consent, and there was some debate over whether they agreed to keep the banks lower or not. Grant were better at history, but maybe a conversation for a different time whether they would contribute to money towards some of their works. As part of that, it might be a question for comment for offline, but Grant would know the history of that better than me. The third one is the groin, the hook groin, the term. The main feedback I've had from the community is the proposal in the end where we've had spurs, etc. I think no one's keen on anything sticking into the river.
Yeah.
There's just going to be a maintenance nightmare. People want a straight end or a curve back towards the sewage ponds. I've understood.
So what this is plan view. That's a cross section, right? And so groin head is basically just that. Okay.
That anything coming to the river will have a lot of rock pulled off it, won't it? So
it's not about going out like that.
No,
it's a bad experience down here. I'm aware of that. So it's just about trying to finish off the end and get down deep enough. Okay.
Grant.
Answer your question there. In the years gone by, there's been a nominal 1 metre difference from the south side as gives the north, but of course different people were different places that could all change. While you're talking about NZTA, just for a second, there is a threat that happened in the last fresh down there that did exactly what we've always said it would, to groin, which is it hasn't been addressed as yet. So anyone on to that?
Yeah, we looked through some feeds a couple of weeks ago. We actually just talked to Moira before to see an update from NZTA. They're pulling it through the emergency works, get it done ASAP. They're going through the consent procedure for doing the work on the NZTA bank and raising the bridge too. So they're just waiting for the consents to go ahead, and then they'll get into those jobs as soon as they got consents. That's right, Tom? Yes. Yeah.
So do we have time to wait for that particular groin failure?
We're talking on the other side. We're talking about
the opposite, yeah.
Yeah, that's I can't comment. I'm not familiar with the situation.
She said that they know about it and they'll go and work on it straight away as soon as they get there.
Just one thing, like Ben was saying about it might need maintenance sort of straight away. Will some money be put into a reserve or allocated out of the Kanoa funding and this funding for the maintenance?
So Kanoa have been quite clear with us of funding capital work, Andy, not operating and maintenance work. Okay. And to try and satisfy you guys on that. I've asked them on a number of occasions for that to be put down in writing. Haven't received that yet. As soon as I get it, I'll make sure everybody's aware of it. Okay.
So the ratings scheme could be liable for most of the maintenance.
So this is where the balance, of the $1 million offer comes into play. And that's up to the joint committee based on the feedback from Raven District members to make a recommendation to council about what that remaining 40 million is.
Yeah, 41,000 number.
No.
Thanks for that.
440,000, yeah. Put that aside to deal with any maintenance issues, because since the Raven Districts we're joined together, the reserve balance hasn't really built up to any great degree as yet. And I understand, that's a separate conversation that we've been having at the general meetings. But if you were so minded, and it's up to you guys, some or all of that remaining fund going into your reserves for a rainy day is not a bad idea in our view. Okay.
What happens if the river gets below the total? What's going to happen?
Again, I'll get Ben to talk to this, but my understanding is it won't fail catastrophically. It's pretty substantial structure. All right, it'll just start to kind of water down in a way, and we'll have to be on it all the time, restacking and replacing lost rock. Okay.
It's going to be pretty severe to get onto that once we get down to that depth, but isn't it?
Any further comments from you on that, Ben?
I think that answers it pretty well. I would expect rock to be, if it gets undermined, some rock will fall off. I don't believe it'll behave and slide as a mass down into the hole. The rock's too big and interlocked. I guess on the plus side, the way the river is continuing to behave, there will always be opportunities to get in there and tidy things up. And look, in all honesty, we could be in the same position we are now in 3 or 4 years' time. We were talking about whether the rock's deep enough, but hopefully we've got it right.
Anything else from anyone else on the floor or online?
There's a proposal to actually take the tow rock, extending the tow rock all the way the full length of the Herald span. Is it needed all the way?
We believe so, yes.
It's a tactic between places, studies.
Just, I think this is picking up on what Helen was saying before. In the course of 6 to 8 weeks, we've gone from having a really active break running down side Havel's Wall and scouring out. And Grant has been really helpful with sending us photos through, giving us updates on that. End of that one fresh, it all backfilled, and the channel's moved out into the middle and beyond, which means it's now bouncing off Cowlands and shooting straight across and down, cutting into that area that was previously quite high, right off the end of Havel's Wall. Okay, so it is a rapidly changing situation, but the overall trend is the same as what we've been talking to you about for quite a while, is that avulsion will continue to migrate upriver, continue to down cut, continue to widen until it gets to the point where it doesn't want to do that anymore. It stops and then it starts to backfill again. Okay. Thank you, Andy.
Can the public ask some questions?
Is there questions from out the back?
Have any of the river engineers seen this avulsion happen in the Waihau before and followed it?
Unlikely in the Waihau, Sonia, given what's happened over the last 40 years as it was like that, yeah. And it's now done that to the point where it's actually grown up outside of where the banks previously were, and it's now operating like a fan like that. So this is a new one. But it's not an unknown phenomenon in other river systems and other places around the country and around the world, presumably.
So you're saying it could go on for quite a few years, is that what you're saying?
I think what Ben was trying to say there is that the avulsion is fine where it wants to be and then start to fill back up again. And then the whole bed to operate like a fan like it did previously, yeah, backwards and forwards. It's hard to predict, but it could be somewhere between 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, okay? For all of that country down the bottom end of the Tartary, upriver of the gorge, and build up to the point where it wants to do that again, okay?
To answer your question, Sonia, the last time it happened in the Waiho was in the late 1920s, there and thereabouts. It was called Waiho, Georgetown was Waiho for Woodman in the 1880s. They got gold in the rocks. It came up to the, it filled up and then it went down to the 1950s there and thereabouts when the plane flew underneath the bridge, which is below the water level now. So it has done that. And sitting in this room and one rooms like this over many years with heaps of river engineers and the likes, they've said every single river in New Zealand goes up and down, up and down. This one here, it's not predictable. So it's going down now because obviously it's found a route through the Tartary. So in my mind, it will continue going down for some time because you've got 38 metres from the Havel Wall down to the Tartary Gorge and also 30 metres height back to the bridge. So there's a phenomenal amount of scour happening. And only my humble opinion is it will happen, will continue to do that for the next 10 to 15 years. That's from what's happened over the past.
And the other question I had is, do the engineers know what's happening below the Tartary?
Yes.
You've scanned all that, you're watching that?
Yeah, so on an annual basis, we cost share with University County, so they fly the whole catchment from headwaters out to sea, and we pay for the bridge down. And so in that annual bed level analysis report that we got in March, the fan immediately below the Tartary Gorge has grown quite rapidly. It grew by about 3 metres in height over the preceding 12 months. And that's continuing to push the river, or want to continue to push the river back over to the left bank once it runs out of the gorge. I'm not sure if it's doing that yet or not. So yes, the short answer is we are keeping an eye on it and understanding what's going on, trying to understand what's going on down the teeth.
It's so for us on the left bank, it's pretty hard. It's a pretty hard gig to swallow that our land's getting washed away while you're dumping rock under the riverbed up here. Matt Gardner's been in front of us multiple times telling us the rivers are grading. Well, we can't keep putting the walls up. Now you want to put the walls down. It's laughable. You're predicting what this river's going to do. It's crazy stuff. Keep the money.
So overall, it's still going up. Okay, it's going down one part of the river.
That channel's miles away from causing any problems down there. Doesn't the council believe that there are walls up to this little flood? Most of the time, that river's a garden stream. And we get 3 or 4 floods a year, and we've got a bit of a channel out there in the gravel, and you're jumping up and down wanting to spend $1.5 million. It's madness.
And
it's a madness.
Yeah, Peter, as responsible councillors, we have to take responsible advice, and we have to take
from people that are getting paid. Shane Jones said to me, we want to hear an answer to this river. He said to me at the bank, from you local fellas that have got skin in the game, not from the regional council. He told me that directly, and someone else down here, which is a big organisation, and it was Doc. He doesn't want to hear it from them. He wants to hear it from people that study that river and put money into it. And we do that.
Yeah, with all due respect to Shane Jones, he's not a river engineer. And if, as councillors, we have to take prudent advice in terms of what we advise to our communities. In this situation, our engineers are saying that this is the most prudent option to take.
But it hasn't been tested.
The wall that's just been finished less than 2 years ago has not even been slightly tested, not even slightly. I'm watching it every flood I drive down there. You fellas have got a camera and drone me out, but you're not actually seeing it. I've put a lot of money into that river and continuing to do it. It hasn't been tested, not even slightly. The sewage ponds, in my mind, and Franz Josef have never been safer. We've never built walls like this before with 50-ton diggers, never. The rock's been tipped over the edge with dump trucks. That wall can take a hell of a pounding before you'll ever see any problem with it. It's massive. It's a massive wall. You should be proud of it, not running around there trying to undercut it again. It'll be fine. We've lost a part, we've lost a bridge. We've seen all the destruction down here. You've spent a lot of money, don't waste any more. Let's put some rock on the ground in case we need it when the river tells us what it's going to do, but let it tell us first. That's nothing.
Appreciate your comments, Peter. Is there anything else from anyone else in the gallery, so to speak?
Is there any advantage of pulling the west side of the ponds up to the current stop bump level to add extra security to the ponds in the medium short term while this works is going on?
Is really whereabouts you mean
So on the west side where the stop bump comes back down to the river level, does that work all filling up to the same height as the current stop bump level?
The Legal District Council spent $365,000 a couple of years ago and put some rock in the target. That's what we still do it.
Which we told them to do originally.
What I mean to the sewage pond.
Well, I mean, the sewage ponds, yes, which we well, was something that we were instructed to do because of the risk of the river coming back up into that area. I know that. I'm well aware of that.
So, can we go?
For 50 years, I've been trying to get water to run uphill and never succeeded doing it.
And the person that does get it to do it on its own well will be quite wealthy person.
Well, you just add this current proposal, I've been watching the way over years. And it's never looked so good in the area of the sewage ponds. That whole stop bank was built without any engineering oversight. Without a resource consent, the regional council were notified the day the bulldozer started by me. They chose not to do anything about it because the argument was if we prosecute the Western District Council, we're only putting one of the ratepayers against themselves. Absolutely incompetence by the regional council. Stuart Challenger, the councillor that was this area represented at the time, was absolutely aghast, and he tried and tried as a river engineer to get the regional council to take responsibility and actually stop the work and get an engineer design that they wanted to carry on. They didn't. They didn't have the balls to do that. And now we're faced with this consequence of a poorly built structure, but it is in no danger, in my view, at the moment of any threat to the sewage ponds.
But it's all been upgraded.
So we're going to slot back to Paul's question. Have you got any?
The sewage ponds haven't looked so safe as what they are now.
Noted. Do you have any remarks for Paul's question?
This is just a waste of money. And what you people are trying to do is grab some money from the government and make use of it and get some wages out of the staff.
Right, that's enough for that. Have you got anything to say in reply to Paul's question and filling that area?
Well, we presented to the working group and to Western District Council a couple of options around the extension side of things. So putting some extra work into the Western District Council bund and revetment versus a 200 metre extension. And what I think you've heard from me tonight is our best bet, best value for money is to actually focus on the stop bank itself rather than anything further downstream. Okay. Ben, are you able to add to that at all?
Sorry, lost the mute button. No, I think that's correct. I guess what I would add in terms of what this proposal is, this is about the degrading river level getting underneath the rock on the existing stop bank. The two approaches to that, one is wait until that happens and go in and undertake repairs on an as required basis. That will happen. It's not a matter of if, in my opinion. We can see at the bottom end, the riverbed is already down at that level. What we're recommending is put in some additional tow rock to minimize how much of that reactive maintenance is required, particularly given circumstances where that might have to happen during events or when flows are running down that right-hand bank, as opposed to being able to get in preemptively with the river out in the middle of the bed. The rest of that wall, as has been discussed, is a solid, very well rocked structure, and this additional tow rock isn't supplementing that. It's just securing the toe of it to avoid losing rock as the river runs down that side.
Sorry, through the chair, can I ask a question? No, okay. Just on that, so, okay, if we were to do this other work, okay, and we know where the tow rock is and how far down it goes, we'll say the last 50 metres of the length of that Havel wall. If where the river's sitting now was to get up against that, as it touched several weeks ago, what is the worst scenario that would happen to the rock, etc., and the wall that's there now, should the river get in and undermine that current rock and structure? What's the worst case scenario you predict?
So Ian, again, can I call on you and your professional opinion, please?
Yep. The river at that bottom end will be coming in underneath the rock, so that rock will fall off. The degree to which it falls off, it's very well locked together, so it could well become perched, but ultimately it will fall off. Portions of it will be washed away. We know that that river has got incredible power for carrying large rocks downstream, and we see that on other banks on this river, the rock groins and things. So you'd be faced with going in and undertaking repairs as that happens.
Is there a risk of it actually of subsidence on the wall itself, should that rock fall?
Yes.
I think we've gone through these meetings as your spokespeople, and that's why we said we didn't want any of the ratepayers' money going into this. But since Canal's putting the money in and we're getting the extra money that this regional council sorted out, they're fixing it now, because if this happens in 5 months' time, we say no to this money now, but it comes out of our money. Yeah. So we've got this money here that we can utilise to do the problem. Hopefully it won't be needed, but it's from Canal, it's government money, it's not coming out our back pocket, it's money set aside. I totally agree with your comments there, but what do you want to do? Do we want to wait a year and then we have to replace that 2.5 metres of tow, and there's $800,000 out of our ratepayers' money?
Yeah, from what I understand is we can't use this money anywhere else. So what Graham says, I back him. Let's use it. Yeah.
Cool. Just a conversation. Like the important part to remember here is that the what is proposed is to proactively drop the rock protection down below the level that the engineers are expecting the bed to drop to. Which means if the river moves up and down, it's moving up and down against a solid rock protection wall. If we leave it the way it is, and the river gets in under that rock, yes, you can top the rock above it, but the rock is only going down to the current scale depth. It's not going down below it. So the situation only gets worse.
Yeah, that's what you know what others mean too. Tow road.
Ian Hartwell?
Yeah, I agree with some of the comments of the public there, but at the end of the day, this is free money. I think we should be doing it. What's the legality if we all sit here today and say, well, we're not doing it, and then the ponds go? You know, there's a lot rides on it. The town needs those sewage ponds. I would say probably if you put some toe rock in there and the river cuts, in 10 years' time, the ponds will still be there and they won't even need to be moved if it cuts like mad. Just that's my opinion. So I think we should get back onto track and discuss what we come to discuss.
Just wanted to point out to those that haven't been down to have a look at the river, we've got a channel coming from the Canavan's Knob this way, from the end of the bank, which is here now. That's only 50 metres away, which is half a rugby field. And at that point there, we measured it at 4.1. So on Tom's drawing here, it's that point of the end of the Harold's Wall is already at there or lower than the toe. So and the more the river goes down the south side, it could scour across here and back out, but not just all. There's two things. The second thing was we to do this work, the river needs to be away from there. It is at the moment, but there is an opportunity for us to actually then join up the bank. So you've got the bridge here, you've got the banks that go like that down to that's the link bank, that's Harold's there. There is a chance, there's several channels down here, there is a chance for us to then actually use that opportunity to take the river away from here, because obviously this doesn't scare unless there's any water running against it. If we diverted the river down this channel here, it's actually making a straight line between the bridge and here, which will scour the ground. What I'm talking about is just doing a bulldozer in here like we did one other time. We were allowed to do 100 metres of it once before, and it dropped the level at the bridge by close to 1 metre. So if we were able to do that to enable this to happen, then that will probably, we're never ever going to control the Waiho, we're all aware of that. But there is an opportunity for us to train the river, and if the scour, which this is bad angle, but it's almost straight down to the Tartree from there. So you might find that all of these channels will pick up at that point and scour through there if we were able to keep it in that channel for over a year.
I think that's a question for the NZTA too, because they'll have to move it from the south side. Or when they're doing their work.
Oh, that's a great.
It's a great idea. Buy a bulldozer with 1.5 million.
Look, I think a really important point here, and that I picked up from Ben, was that it's a far cheaper option, or it's a cheaper option for this joint committee to approve this work to be done now, preventatively, than react to issues that occur as a consequence of each flood event you get in the river. And so you're spending your money wisely now to do this preemptive work. It's cheaper.
Well, it's not our money now, but it will be. We're going to accept.
I think the other, sorry, can I just say something? I think one thing we've got to be mindful of too, and it's not meant as a threat, but I know with the funding, whether it's Kanoa, Provincial Growth Fund or whatever, is that if you don't complete what you applied for the funding upfront to do, if you either don't complete the work or you don't utilise all that funding and have to return it back to the source, and for whatever reason, the negative approach from that returning is that should you need to apply for some other form of funding at any other time, you would not be front and centre of access to that funding. Historically, if you don't complete your job to time and to budget, that's a very negative cross against you. If you forfeit on what you applied for the funding to originally do, for whatever reason, and for this, they would be wanting to know the detail of this, 2-3 years time, whatever, if there was funding made available for river protection work and Franz Josef desperately needed it, you would find that you were not at the top of the table for that funding application. And I don't mean that as a blackmail for this, but I know that is how they work. So it is also something that you have to think about as the big picture and the future. I'm not saying it is a blackmail to make a decision or a call, but it's something that you do need to be aware of. It has happened in other places around the country. And when they have had to go back and reapply for funding, they have not been at the top of the list.
Bloody madness, so we're trying to save them some dollars.
I know,
I
and that's where regional council coming forward with that 1 mil to do this, which takes the pressure off the locals to fund it, is actually a godsend to be able to do something, because we're not saying to Kanoa that this can't happen. We're returning money to you. That's not the conversation. And they're acutely aware, because there's been a lot of conversations had with them about the funding, in particular this last piece of work, etc. So they know it hasn't been an easy discussion or an easy decision. They're acutely aware of that.
And Helen's correct. You're protecting yourself now, but you're also protecting yourself in the future. You're protecting your opportunity in the future.
Right, just bring it to you. Will this make our ponds safe flow? Can we insure them? Can you say the pond, this is all we can do to?
They're still going to be moved, Brian, because of the consent process. That's inevitable. They still have to be moved because of the consenting. So they can't stay there. They do have to be moved. And they don't.
Around a date or what?
Yeah, they can't stay with a discharge to the river. That's not environmentally acceptable anymore. And also, it doesn't solve the problem because the what do you call it? Whatever the system is, with the growth of Franz Josef, the system we've got there currently doesn't suit the growth of Franz and the numbers that are coming through now. The numbers that are coming through now are far greater than what they were 2 years and 5 years ago. So that whole system is now not practical, not suitable to manage the numbers that are frequenting Franz, and we will see that traffic growing.
Helen, just to correct you, I've been informed that the sewage ponds haven't discharged the river for quite a few years with the new upgrade at that stage.
Yes, no, they haven't. You're quite right. They haven't, but it is a risk that still sits there regardless, isn't it? But yeah, as far as the consent goes, would we get another extension on it? Very doubtful.
Is there anything else from anyone else online or in the room? We'll move to recommendations.
Just the only thing I'd like to say, like, that's a nice solid bank, but if it gets undermined, it will disappear. So really, you've got to protect the bottom of it.
Yeah. Just to Helen's point before about Dale's point, if we don't use all the money, then seems counterintuitive. We're back right. And Paul's, would there be any point in trying to bring fill in behind the end here? Right, and there's quite a space, like a rugby field's worth of space, that I think currently gravel's screened in, and possibly a stockpile rock on it as part of this. I know they don't want to fund stockpiling rock, but if we use it, call it a different term, to get the best bang for the buck out of the Kanoa money. And we've got Paul Wilson always talk about breadth will save you, not height, that we bring gravel in. It historically was quite cheap to bring gravel in. So that helps protect the ponds. I know Gavin's point, water won't flow uphill, but there has been a bit of backwash in there. So it helps in around where the council built their wall. We bring gravel in, we put rock on top of it. So the rock is there to grab. If I understand Andy's points and other points right, if for some reason in a number of years' time, this new toe is attacked, unlikely that we've got a rock stockpile there. I know it's probably the wrong end of the stock bank. We can grab to fill in those holes.
So is that in addition to, or?
In addition to,
so.
It's part of, yeah.
So I think that was along the lines of what Paul was asking previously, yeah. I mean, without harbouring it further, Logan, extending the width of the stock bank or the bund back towards the ponds, possibly not, but there is some validity to the idea of putting a stockpile in addition to doing this down in that general area, and that's recommended or suggested by Ben and then recommended by the other engineer that we have in play here, the one that's monitoring our compliance with our resource consent conditions on behalf of you all as well. Okay.
Ideally, it's the wrong end for the stockpile, because if something goes wrong further up, we can't get to it.
But given that that's the most at-risk place at the moment, it is a good place for it, and it is something that you might decide to do with the balance of the funding from the investment fund. Because the canal money won't fund the stockpile.
At least we,
The balance of-
yeah, but at least we badge it as part of this work.
Yes, and we make it look like not a stockpile, i.e. it's a increase in very large. Politicians know how it works.
But as I say, I'll get that verbally.
They come
It's on the table, but I haven't had it in writing yet. I'll continue to press that question.
To Dale's point, if we don't call it a stockpile, we call it a very deep.
It's an engineered bloody groin at the end. It's just a bloody big engineered groin.
Facing inland, not out of the river.
And coming round to the pond.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, well, you can look it up.
We'll make sure you get a spokesperson when they come down to actually say they've been finished.
Ian has got another online.
Yeah, look, I'd just like to bring up what somebody else brought up, maybe Logan, I'm not too sure. Your kicker at the end, we've seen it time and time again, just wants to be a nice, gentle curve instead of that big kicker that goes out, and all we do every time there's a flood, pour hundreds or thousands of tons of rock in. You know, that's my major concern on the design on that. But otherwise, you know, it's yeah, we just need to get on with it, I think.
You're getting nods from Ben, so I suspect that's a good outcome and some agreements there. If there's nothing else, we'll move to the recommendations. There's 3. Number 2 is going to have a slight piece of panel beating, just for clarity, and obviously there was a couple of allergic reactions to it when the papers went out. Anything else from anyone else before we move there?
Yep.
What do we do?
What control does the local group have over the shifting of the river away from there? And the amount, I think, the distance they're going to rock that wall. I mean, it should include, if you're going to do it, it should include the ponds, but I don't think there's any need to go all the way, the full length of the thing. Keep more money in the kitty, because you're hedging your bets. It's a gamble. The river could go there. The river could also go down towards the loop, which it's doing at the moment. The main channel is not right at the end of that bank. It's miles away. It's 400 metres downstream to the west of it. Malloy told me that today. He's been down that a lot. He said, make sure you tell them that.
Any replies there?
And also at Cannabon's Knoll, there was a lot of rock there that's now buried. So if the river's going to be rechanneled to the south side, we want that reinstated. I think that's a must, and that's been so then it'll run down the rubbish dump bank, and there's no kicker there anymore to keep it out into the middle. And Jeremy will know about that.
Comments noted. Anything else from around the table or online? Otherwise, yep.
The balance, are we talking now about the balance of the $1 million, or does that come to another meeting?
That would come to another meeting.
Yeah.
And is there a time frame for that other meeting?
Well, if there's a need for another extraordinary meeting, call an extraordinary meeting, but otherwise it would be a normal meeting.
Which is,
I believe it's August.
That's not
I believe you're talking about. Yeah. Don't quote me.
I just wanted to clarify the report that you had yesterday. That would be correct. Today, with the flood, with the rain overnight, it's coming off Cannabon's Knoll and going and splitting into 2 channels. One of them coming right over to within 50 metres of the sewage ponds again. So it varies overnight.
Cool. I will read the recommendations out, noting some changes to number 2. So number 1 is to receive the report. I'll skip to number 3, to note that the paper will be provided back to the regional council with the outcome of the decision, ultimately for endorsement by the regional councillors. Point 2 currently reads, endorse the proposal to add the $1 million offered by the West Coast Regional Councillors for the West Coast Regional Council, from the West Coast Regional Council's Investment Fund for the Franz Josef Stage 2 Pillars Wall Upgrade Project budget. Noting the comments from Tom earlier, and for the sake of clarity, I think we replaced the $1 million to the $560,000 of the $1 million, and then at the end note the $440,000 balance of that $1 million to be decided by this committee.
Can I just ask through the chair, if that were the motion, is that going to, do we need any contingency in terms of the 560, or is 560 encompassing what the engineers are recommending?
560 is encompassing what Ben's recommending, including contingency.
Thanks. Thank you.
Just through the chair, I just think rather than actually quantify specific amounts, you should generalise it. That the remaining funds come back to the committee as opposed to quantifying the 400, because
some of them position trying to protect the committee's $440,000, noting the importance they hold around it.
well, we've got no expected carryover of 440.
I think, Helen, Tom has confirmed that the 560 already has a contingency in it. So if Tom and the engineers are satisfied that with that contingency it's sufficient, probably the motion as put can go.
Diesel price risk at the moment, though.
Who's got that? That's everybody again today. What happens tomorrow? I am happy to move those three. Looking for a seconder. Colin, all in favour?
Aye.
Online, there's a nice show of hands. I will call that unanimous. Anyone allergic to me calling it unanimous? Great. And that brings us to the end of the official proceedings. Happy to declare the meeting closed at 6:47 p.m. Thank you everyone for your attendance, and we'll confirm the dates of the general meeting of the committee, so we can bring it